Okay, thanks everyone. Would also like to say thanks to Paul and to Angie for putting on a fantastic panel, shedding kind of a spotlight on the opportunity within Newfoundland and Labrador, the province, and kind of the opportunity that it offers. So next up, I'd like to introduce to the stage Mr. Darren Cooke, CEO at Firefly Metals, who's developing the old Green Bay Rambler project within Bay Verde in the northwest peninsula of Newfoundland. So Darren, stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Cole, and just like to also thank Cole for his work that we've been doing at Stiefel. They've just initiated coverage on us, and we look forward to having Stiefel as part of our journey moving forward as we build that relationship. Look, absolute pleasure to be here in Quebec City again. Great conference, and it seems to be getting better every year. And got some pretty exciting updates on our Green Bay Copper Gold project in Newfoundland. And it's great to come straight off the panel to talk about this project. I don't have to really spend too much time talking about what a great jurisdiction it is, because everyone's just heard it from numerous different companies, but cannot state strongly enough how critical that support from the government and the community is in terms of what we're trying to achieve on the island. So our project here, just to summarise it up before we get into the detail, is high-grade copper and gold, and it is one of the most impressive VMS systems out there. So far, our resource contains about 1.2 million tonnes of copper equivalent, and it's growing. It's still open. As has been mentioned here previously, we picked up the ashes of the old Rambler assets, and we'll talk a little bit about what happened there and what we're doing differently. But the key point here is that there's been over $250 million worth of infrastructure invested already, and that's money we don't have to spend. Critically, that is money that will be helping us get off the ground as soon as possible, so it's money we do not have to spend. And if there's anything that people are to take away from our group and our company and the people involved, we're very impatient people and we want to do things quickly. So the rate at which we've developed the project, the rate at which we've advanced in only the first year and a half of having ownership has been astounding, and it's a really credit to the team that we've got on the ground in Newfoundland, the geologists, the engineers, the former people that worked at Rambler that have remained. It is a real credit to them, the speed and at which we've been able to do this, and the passion which they bring to work every day of the week. So look, just a brief overview of the company, and I won't bore people with too many of the details here. But you know, we're in a very, very strong financial position, and the one point that I'll make here is that cash balance at the end of the last quarter. We had 68.5 million Australian dollars in the bank. Just overnight, we've announced a financing of 77 million dollars Australian to add to that pool. So really exciting times for us. It future-proofs us in terms of our plans to bring this project back into production. It future-proofs us in terms of our ambition to make more discoveries in the area. And it really is a strong show of support from all the financial institutions that have contributed to, you know, the belief in this project and what we're doing in Newfoundland. The benefit of this project, there's no streams. There's no offtake agreement, which will be critical in terms of you know, developing this project moving forward. Importantly, there's no debt. And we have very, very strong institutional support on our register, headlined by BlackRock out of London. You know, it's amazing. That's a major resource fund that invests in our company in Newfoundland. So that's a big bonus for us. 60% of it is institutional. And just recently, we've dual listed on the TSX. So, you know, we're no longer an Australian company. We're just as much Canadian as Australian. And a lot of, excuse me, a lot of this capital raise that we've got moving forward is about building liquidity in Toronto on the TSX. So what we'll see is more trading and more opportunity for people to buy shares in Canada. So where we're sitting in Newfoundland, and we spoke to a little bit of this on the panel, is we have great infrastructure, really easily accessible location, access to deep water ports, access to hydropower. We've got the Deer Lake Airport an hour and a half's drive away, so the location for a mining operation does not get any better. The support that we've had from the community has been second to none. The support we've had from the government has been astounding, and it's really good to see that people want us to bring this thing home. They want us to get it into operation. The workforce is amazing. So many people that have migrated out west want to come home to Newfoundland. And, with all the projects that are being developed on the island, there will be ample opportunity to bring people back to the island. What we have at Green Bay is already the ingredients for a large-scale, world-class copper mine. And, copper's not getting easier to find. When you actually look at where the global copper supply is coming from, a lot of the developments that are out there at the moment are these large-scale porphyries in South America. They cost billions and billions of dollars to bring online. From discovery to production can be 20 years. We are well positioned for low capital and quick production with what we're trying to do here at Green Bay. But we have a rare combination of both scale and grade with this particular deposit. It's a world-class VMS system. We've got the resource up to 60 million tonnes, and it is still open. It is still growing, and we're investing heavily in the drill bit to make it even bigger. So we currently have 6 rigs underground and 1 on surface, so 7 rigs on site. And with that recent capital raising, we will accelerate our regional exploration and add at least 1 and possibly 2 more surface rigs to really make discoveries in the district. So, we've got a mineral resource to underpin a long life mine. The surface infrastructure, I mentioned that in the introduction, really good platform to go. We've got water treatment plants, we've got workshops, all of that money that's been spent. And one of the benefits of buying an historic operation, this was producing until March 2023, is that we've got an underground mine that we can already access. We can drive in a truck and get 900 metres underground already. And that gives us a head start in, firstly, the amount of money we have to spend because we don't have to get access to the bottom of the mine and the ore body, but it also gives us time. Like, the time to develop that is incredible, so it means we can bring things back online a lot quicker, and we'll have a look at some of that in future slides. Processing capacity, we want to build a new mill here, and I'll explain why that's critical to making this project work, but the ore itself is very simple metallurgically. It's very easy to extract. There's 96% recovery historically, no deleterious elements, and there is a huge market for copper concentrates at the moment, particularly from an Atlantic province where it's really easy to access markets in smelters in Europe and in other places, even Asia. We've been getting interest as far as Asia in terms of getting our concentrate from Newfoundland to their smelters. So everything's in place for a great deposit. One of the questions you often get asked, because we did buy it out of administration, is how did such a great asset end up administration? And the work we did on this technically to convince ourselves that all of those problems were solvable, there has been nothing that we've seen since we've been operating there in the last year and a half that's changed our conviction on that. This is a great ore body. Nothing wrong with the ore body, it was just what people did to it. So the first problem was the debt spiral. The previous operators could not raise capital. They kept taking on layer after layer of debt, couldn't pay it back, had a gold stream on it, so lost further revenue. The way that that's been solved is through the insolvency, and I know it was really hard on a lot of the people during that insolvency process, but it's the only way that this deposit could work, because if it had that burden of debt still remaining, we couldn't get it back up and running. So I know it was painful for a lot of people, but it was necessary, unfortunately. And the thing I said to the local people when I first arrived was the only way we can make that right is to make this work. So there'll be jobs and there'll be future business opportunities by making this mine into the large-scale mine that we believe it can be. The ore body infrastructure mismatch was another thing, and we're not finance people running this company, we're actually miners, so we spent a lot of our career working underground in open pits, doing exploration. We understand the business. And what was really clear when we did the due diligence on this was there was a massive mismatch between the infrastructure and the scale of the ore body. And to put that into perspective, when we bought this thing, the resource was 40 million tonnes. The mill, which was 40 kilometres away, built for a little gold deposit, was only 500,000 tonnes per annum. So it would take 80 years to actually process the resource that they had. With the drilling that we've invested, the 90,000 metres that we've done to date, We've already increased it to 60 million tonnes, so it would take 120 years to put it through that mill. And I feel pretty good for my age, but I'm not going to be here in 120 years. So we want to build a bigger mill on site and really bring forward and increase the scale of the production. So that's the plan, build it on site. And then the last one was the inadequate ore definition. When money's tight, the first thing that gets cut is drill rigs, first thing that gets cut is geology, and they're essentially mining blind and making a lot of mistakes. So, investment in drilling is something that we do, it's something that's really important to us, and that's the way that we'll make it work. So when we look at the scale of this ore body, this is just a long section, and it is amazing. Like, normally VMS systems can be quite discontinuous, quite potty, but that massive sulfide zone that sits on top, which is the high-grade copper gold there in gold, that now extends over 3 kilometres, and that's starting to get into the same realms of deposits such as Kidd Creek. It's starting to get into the same strike length that you see at things like La Ronde. There's not many of those things around. So with the ore body that we have that really high-grade copper gold sulfide zone on top, but then beneath it we've got this bulk zone of large-scale copper veinlets that bulk out to be around the 2% copper mark, and that's amenable to bulk mining. And that means that we need the bigger mill to change the mining method to get the lower unit costs and make the economics of this project work. But you can see some of the holes that we've drilled recently are some of the best holes that we've had in that deposit. 86.3 metres at 3.7% copper equivalent true thickness is unheard of. So, we've got a great platform to grow. It's still open. We've got 2 rigs drilling further down plunge extensions, and we expect a resource update later this year to show that growth occurs. We've put out some holes in front of our existing 60 million tonne resource. You can see some of the hits there. We've still got 25 metres at 5.1% copper equivalent. Another hole out in front in that massive sulfide zone had nearly 13 metres at nearly 7% copper equivalent. So the ore body continues. The geophysics that we've done down plunge shows that it continues. And with this latest capital raising, what we're going to do is accelerate that growth. We're going to continue to drill, continue to expand the resource, and really demonstrate the world-class scale and grade of this deposit. The key use of funds that we're going to have for this capital raise will be to really accelerate the regional potential. And the thing we know about VMS deposits is that they never occur as orphans. They're always in clusters. There's always more than one. And the Ming mine that we just looked at the long section of is just one of 8 historic mines that were mined up until the 1970s that we have on our ground. We've got the historic Tilt Cove mine. When we look a bit closer to home, we've got the Rambler main mine that was mined between 1964 and 1967, and we've got the East mine. And the Rambler main mine is all part of the same system. It's on the same geological contact. Up until when it was mined, they mined 500,000 tonnes, but the gold to copper ratios had slipped around a bit. So, that particular one was 4.7 grams per tonne gold produced and 1.3% copper. It was only mined to 200 metres below surface. Gold wasn't worth much back in the 60s, and they were more interested in the copper. So they stopped mining 200 metres down. Our first 2 holes from the surface exploration hit 10 metres at 5.7 grams gold and 1.3% copper. The next one down that extended it to 200 metres beyond the old workings, nearly 13 metres at 4 grams gold and 0.5% copper. So we're just starting to unlock the potential of this. And when you compare it side by side to Ming and the scale of Ming and how extensive that deposit is, you look at on the left-hand side of that image where Rambler main mine is and where our new hits are. We're only scratching the surface. There's no drill holes down plunge of this. So we're pretty excited about what the exploration future holds. Then all of a sudden you're talking about a hub and spoke model, 2 mines feeding a mill. And the possibilities are endless for us. The value drivers for us is continued resource growth. We believe this resource will grow significantly over time. We're spending a lot of work upgrading the resource for our mining studies, so converting it from inferred into measured and indicated, making those new discoveries. All I can say is watch this space, because the rigs are out there at the moment. Our team, led by Crispin Pike, is doing a great job unlocking the potential of the district, and I'm really looking forward to some of the results coming back that we've drilled. The global scale, that rare combination again, pretty exciting to see. And we've spoken at length on the jurisdiction, so I don't need to say more about that. We wouldn't have come halfway across the world if we didn't believe in the jurisdiction and the geology of what we're dealing with. Key things for us to look out for: resource update later in the year. We'll be putting out our first economic mining studies late this year, and we will be moving to feasibility very rapidly. We're also in the EA process, and hopefully we'll get some good news soon on that front and be able to get constructing there and bring those jobs back to Newfoundland as soon as we can. So thank you very much. If there's any further questions, we'll be around the conference for the rest of the day. And once again, thanks to the organisers. It's been a fantastic conference, and look forward to seeing everyone in the near future. Thank you.